All right. Good morning, everybody. It's close to happy spring. It'll be spring this weekend and it'll feel like it as well. Just want to say good morning to all who are attending the RTA's meeting of our Board of Directors. Just a couple of old guidelines for our meeting for those of you who are here in person, and it's great to see basically a full turnout. It's great to see JD Ross here in person, and hope he's feeling better, and I think he is. I want to review the guidelines. If you're here in person, turn your microphones on when you wish to speak and off when you are done, so that we limit the microphones to one at a time. And I'll call on you with questions, for questions or comments for those of you who are here in the room. For anybody calling in remotely, and I'm not sure there is anybody, but keep your audio on mute as much as possible, because we do record these meetings, and we don't want anything to make for the board secretary make it harder for her to hear. But if you do have a question or comment in your remote, put on the raise hand and try to remember to turn it off when you're finished, and the board secretary will call on you if you have your hand raised. With that said, I now want to officially call the meeting of the Board of Directors of the Regional Transportation Authority, while we still exist, to order. And will everybody in person please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. And Madam Secretary Kendra, will you please call the roll? Is she working?
It's not. I know it's not going to work for camera, but it'll be fine. All right.
Maybe requires Joey's fingerprint on there.
Probably.
Just for the board, just for the board's edification. And I don't know, Joey, if you're listening to this, because you're such a trooper and so dedicated, we wish you well. I checked on your status yesterday, and Joey is recuperating at home, and we look forward to having her back as quickly as possible. But Kendra, thank you for stepping up as you always do. And if you have a microphone, now take the roll.
I think we're good now. Okay, Director Alvarez, Director Carey, Director Colson, Director Gorman.
Here.
Director Groven.
Here.
Director Jenkins.
Here.
Director Kotarek.
Here.
Director Lewis.
Here.
Director Mondero.
Here.
Director Rotondo.
Here.
Director Ross.
Here.
Director Ryan.
Here.
Director Sager.
Here.
Director Sonoika is absent. Director Walker.
Here.
And Chairman Dillard.
Present. And we have a quorum, on a physical quorum.
Yeah,
I don't
we have
believe
15 present.
I don't believe there's anybody on remote, which is great. And thank you all for your perfect attendance as usual. Item 3 is the approval of the minutes from our board meeting held on February 19th. Any comments or corrections from what's been sent to you? If not, how about a motion and a second to approve? Director Walker moves we approve, seconded by Director Gorman. Congratulations, by the way, Liz, on Tuesday. And with that, how about a roll call on the approval of the minutes?
Sure thing. Director Alvarez, Director Carey.
Aye.
Director Colson, Director Gorman.
Aye.
Director Groven.
Aye.
Director Jenkins.
Aye.
Director Kotarek.
Aye.
Director Lewis.
Yes.
Director Mondero.
Yes.
Director Rotondo.
Yes.
Director Ross.
Aye.
Director Ryan.
Yes.
Director Sager.
Yes.
Director Walker.
Aye.
And Chairman Dillard.
Yes.
15 ayes.
And the minutes are approved. Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. We will move on to item 4, and that's the public comment segment of today's meeting. Any comments received now will be read into the record by the board secretary, and the written comments received prior to the board meeting have been shared with the board. Is there anyone who's present that wishes to speak today? Kendra or Leanne?
Yes, we have 7 people signed up.
Excellent. Why don't you you've got probably the list. I know Michael Vandercreek was out in front, helping some people register as well, but take
First-
whatever order you want.
Sure. First, we have Kira Obradovich.
Yep. Thank you, Kara, for being here. When I read your name yesterday, I was wondering if you were related to the great Chicago Bear, Ed Obradovich. You want to claim him. For guys, for Bill Colson's in my age, he was a superstar.
Yes.
You
I
want
have
to
heard.
claim him.
I can claim him.
He's
yep.
a legend.
All right. Well, thank you so much. My name's Kira Bradovich, and I'm here on behalf of the Chicago chapter of the National Federation of the Blind. I am the Advocacy Committee Chair and Treasurer, and so we would like to submit the following public comment for your consideration. So we're reaching out to you to share the profound impact of the RAP-TAP program that has had an incredible, it's been an incredible opportunity for our members and for our community. The flexibility, the reliability, and the timeliness these rides provide allow for a level of independence that simply cannot be understated. So what does it provide? Well, employment success. Having reliable transit is essential from attrition to retention and attending job fairs, arriving on time to job interviews, and commuting to and being on time from work and school. Through this program, our members have found roles as blind vendors and merchants since they were able to travel to and from storage facilities and the locations they served in a timely and efficient manner. And that allows for sustainable income and a career. We also have better access to healthcare, and it enables cost-saving, urgent, and preventative care visits through rides to appointments and pharmacies. And certain providers now issue late fees and have late arrival policies that can end in appointment cancellations, which can lead to potentially dangerous health consequences. It also allows for self-care and independence. It ensures timely arrival and access needed for self-sufficiency, including trips to the grocery store, school, religious services, community events, social activities, and many other essential services. It also can provide safety and security, reduces exposure to potential harm and harassment, being able to travel in an emergent situation, such as a disabled parent who has a sick child at school and needs to bring them home or to the doctor. It keeps us safe from risks at night and in inclement weather, and other barriers such as difficult to navigate areas. This is particularly important for those with orientation mobility challenges. And it addresses the public transportation gaps. There is a lack of accessible public transport options in some areas. We're very glad to have the public transit that we do have here, but there is always that last mile and the time that is required to make up for those gaps. The EDA, as you know, mandates a form of reliable on-demand transit, which the RAP-TAP program provides. And furthermore, there is a concern regarding how an individual's eligibility for paratransit services may be affected if forced to rely on fixed route systems due to the need to make up for paratransit's limitations, especially for those unconditionally approved who cannot depend on fixed routes. We understand that due to the budget shortfall last year, temporary changes had to be made in order to continue to offer a version of this service through the new year. The price increased from $2 per ride to $3.25, and the 8 rides a day limit was narrowed significantly to only 30 rides per month. However, thanks to the new funding for NETA, we were informed by multiple members of ADA advisory committees and other transit leaders at the end of 2025 that there were plans to increase the number of rides allotted each month. Unfortunately, as of this date, we have not seen any movement or plans from the RTA to fund or pace to implement these changes. We strive to be productive, independent members of society who contribute to our community and economy, and the RAP-TAP program has provided many of us the means necessary and many others in the disability community to do so. We expect to be informed of plans being put forth to reinstate the maximum of 8 rides per day that we were allotted for this program, and we look forward to the return of access to the reliable on-demand paratransit services that RAP-TAP provides. And thank you so much for hearing us today.
Thank you very, very, very much. And, you know, this is a program, we're just trying to find the right balance that was created. It's innovative, it's worked well. And, you know, your testimony, I think everybody on this panel agrees how important this is and understands it. So thank you very much.
Next, we have Jonathan Barton.
Jonathan, thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Jonathan Barton. I'm a staff member at the Progress Center for Independent Living. We represent people with disabilities throughout Cook County and provide services and support so they can live fully independent lives. Thank you for tentatively adding 10 rides to Wrap and Tap services. Your jobs are not easy. It's a thankless responsibility that you have, and we, the community members of Illinois, understand that. I'm here to plea to anyone of you that will listen that our members are in a situation that's also very difficult. We're struggling to survive right now in this economy. My mother's a retired nurse. She went to Rush Presbyterian St. Luke's Hospital, School of Nursing, and worked at Edward and Westlake and Oak Park Hospital her entire lives. And when she retired, she received PACE services to get from A to B because she could no longer drive. The first call she made was to request to go on Sunday to her church to hear her choir in the suburbs of Chicago. And the dispatcher politely said, "Ma'am, we don't serve that area on Sundays." That's the type of discouragement that leads riders to no longer seek your services. People who have given their all to the land of Lincoln in the United States. And I know you don't want it to be that way. So that's why I'm here today, to continue to ask for your cooperation. If we, the riders, cannot get from point A to point B on a consistent daily basis, every other essential human need becomes scarce or non-existent to us at a level that renders us as spectators, not participants in the progress of our lives. 40 Wrap and Tap rides a month for each individual rider is, we, the community members of the Chicagoland area, textbook definition below minimum essential services available, which meet our needs for riders with disabilities, veterans, seniors, and retired operating room nurses like Linda Barton. Transit is the very first component of a fully functioning, accessible community with genuine respect for we, the disability community members. Therefore, transit services must be a standard which is so strongly responsive to public needs that all other areas of public need see your decision as the model to emulate and expand upon to meet acceptable quality of service for we, the people of Illinois. Someone said it much more eloquent than me 250 years ago when they declared the sacred vow to promote the general welfare, secure the blessings of liberty, and form a more perfect union. May it be so. Thank you all for your reflection, for your cooperation, and a well-planned path forward that if you someday, like Linda, have a disability as aggravating as multiple sclerosis, you will understand from our perspective, in our shoes, what it means when we say independent living liberation is not optional. It's survival. We love Illinois. We love you as our neighbors, our community members. We don't want to move out. But this economy has never been more cruel to we the people. I'm not telling anything you don't know. Just reflect on Linda's life and all of our lives today when you make these decisions. Because if we can't get to A to B, then what did these last 250 years accomplish? God bless you all.
Thank you. Jonathan, operating room moms are pretty special. My mom was an operating room nurse at Heinz Veterans Hospital for 47 years. So
God bless her.
thank you for your story. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for all your leadership today.
Next, we have Mike Archie.
You want to testify, Michael?
Yeah, hi. Probably a right turn from what some of the other speakers are. Thanks. Good morning, Chair Dillard, directors, staff. Mike Archie, I'm here again. I'm an Illinois citizen, taxpayer, transit user, and low emission transportation solution provider. I'm here to follow up on the status of whether any operational and economic comparison analysis between hybrid diesel buses, battery electric buses, and other low emission technology options has been conducted. Previously, I FOIA'd, I've asked staff, no such analysis was done. It's on the agenda today. There's $189 million of taxpayer money going to be spent or targeted to be spent in 2026. I guess I'm asking, how can such a sum be committed without proper due diligence in a CapEx spend? If it exists, can you share it with me? I'd like to know because I've seen some gaps in what I've seen. If it doesn't exist, why not? We need to know the data driven. I have gotten anecdotal ex- explanations. The statutory restrictions, state statutory restrictions. That state statutory restriction also restricts hybrid diesel buses. FTA, low, no emissions. The other technologies are also included in the FTA's low, no emission grant. So, and grants are, technology are able to be switched post-award. I've heard anecdotal excuses, but I haven't seen the data, haven't seen the operational performance data, haven't seen the life cycle total cost of ownership data. I've done my own analysis and I've shared with some of you, and there are significant tens of millions of dollars over the life cycle of a bus, cost savings on other technologies. Yet those other technologies aren't being considered, even though Pace has experience with them. I don't understand this. And I'm as a citizen, I'm trying to understand and get answers. Lastly, it comes up every 3 or 5 years or maybe earlier, geopolitical conflict that drive diesel prices up. I know it's tough. We can't predict that, but there are ways to hedge and diversify your fueling fleet, technology and fuels, so you don't have to absorb, or the taxpayers don't have to absorb, the total shock price of these diesel prices. I was at the PACE meeting yesterday. Just $3 to $5 million is a preliminary look at what their diesel costs are going to go up. If you have diversification, just like we do in our retirement funds, you can insulate yourself. All I'm suggesting is do the analysis, do the math, make sure your solutions that you're going forward with make sense compared to all other options. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And I know you're going to see Director Groven on this topic sometime. So
I am.
thank you.
Oh, I didn't know. Okay. Time is of the essence on this. There's a lot of things going down in Springfield and
Thanks, Michael.
thank you.
Next is Debbie Pittman.
Hi, Debbie. That is one beautiful service animal you have with you, by the way.
Thank you.
Your chair.
Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning. What's your dog's name?
That is a secret.
Uh-huh.
I don't share her name so that she's not distracted while she's working.
I
'Cause
love
people
it.
do
She's
like to
beautiful.
call their
Beautiful.
names. I am here today on behalf of Concerned Citizens of Paratransit, Progress Center for Independent Living, and the National Federation of the Blind of Illinois. You've already heard from Kira Obradovich, and you've also heard from Jonathan. And I attended the PACE board meeting yesterday, and we learned through them that you all have intentions of adding an additional 10 rides to the tap and wrap service per month. And we thank you for that. And we understand that from what they told us that it's basically looking at those people that work so that they can get back and forth to work for the month. But in considering that, it's not just those people that go back and forth to work. It's those people, like Jonathan said, his mom that cannot go to church on Sunday because the paratransit service doesn't allow for that particular service in that area on a Sunday. So the tap and wrap are crucial. It allows people with disabilities to do more than just go back and forth to work. It allows us to live lives just as though we were people who didn't have a disability. And that's important because our Constitution says we're entitled to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So our pursuit of happiness, which actually touches on our veterans as well, which Jonathan mentioned, is crucial. Someone's life should not have to stop because they have a disability. They're entitled, we are entitled to be able to live to life to the fullest. And the more we are allowed to live life to the fullest through the Wrap and Tap program, gives society an even better opportunity to accept our disability and understand that our disability is not what makes us a person. We are a person first. We just happen to have a disability. And we should not be penalized because of that. So when you consider those 10 rides, we'd appreciate if you would consider a few more so that we can do more than just go back and forth to work. So that we can live lives to the fullest as our Constitution allows for us to do. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Next is Kenneth Kenny.
Service dogs are amazing. Yeah, no, I get that. Andrew Creek is amazing, isn't he? He's such a great person.
All right.
Okay, and then this microphone right in front of me right now.
Okay.
Hi, Kenneth. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir. My name is Kenneth Shad, and I'm in 77 at this point, so I thank the Lord for that many years so far. And to think about the rides that I'm also, by the way, a member of the National Federation of the Blind, but for me, it's gone to the point where I have rather difficulty walking, and most things most things, if not all, I usually may travel with another person to get to where I want to get to. And I would think that let's say any increase in rides would be a good thing. I'm just thinking this in general, especially for maybe people that do have to go back and forth as far as work, or people that just, let's say, the basic thing, go to church in a week, or those that may be traveling, independent, being able to travel independent enough to go and get groceries or whatever else that they need. And so I would think that the increase in rides would be a good thing. And I thank you, RTA board, for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, very much.
Okay, that's it.
Next is Ryan McGraw.
Hi, Ryan. It's good to see you again.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I'm testifying regarding the Rapid Tap program. Thank you for your consideration of increasing Rapid Tap to 40 rides per month. That's a step forward from 30 definitely, and it definitely will allow greater freedom in the community. And I use Rapid Tab Wrap on a daily basis to go to work, go to the store, go out, go to restaurants. So it allows me the freedom to get to places on time with the freedom of an on-demand ride without having to go through the steps that taking a pace ride takes. So saying that I am appreciative, because I am, of the increase. I would like to see it increased to 60. I am understanding that you cannot go up to 240. I understand that the program is costly, but yes, I can go to and from work. But I mean, people with disabilities, like any other person, want to go out. They need to do errands. They need to go to the doctors. Think of how many places you go in a day. And I mean, we were glad to see the transit bill pass. So you get that money. So I remain appreciative, but encourage you to go further and increase it to 60 eventually. Thank you.
Gotcha. Thank you, Ryan, very much.
Next, we have Ileana Rivera Haven.
Hello, my name is Ileana Haven, and I have a severe neuromuscular disorder called myasthenia gravis. This means that I am exhausted 90% of my life. I started using PACE paratransit in 2018, quickly transitioning to the taxi access program the year after due to the strain my body was in when using the PACE buses. When I transitioned over to TAP, the rides were physically smoother, the long wait times were cut significantly, which allowed me to conserve energy for places that I need to go to, for my every 3-week medical infusions, church, and my full-time job. I can't overstate this enough. TAP has opened my world. I am now able to travel all around Chicago and explore the areas one should have in their high school years. I've seen how many of you care deeply for the disabled community, and I truly appreciate your commitment to accessibility and to make fixed ride service easier for disabled people who struggle every day already. But as you know, fixed route can still be inaccessible, and paced paratransit does not always provide the same type of service and flexibility as fixed route. The disability community can be more independent with the necessary supports like the taxi access program, which is why I appreciate the increase of 10 additional rides for those who need it. I'm excited to see what comes from this investment into TAP and RAP. Thank you.
Thank you, Eliana, very much.
And then we have Adam Mack.
Hey,
Hi, Adam.
hey, how y'all doing?
Good. Thank you.
All right. What y'all up to?
We're up to trying to help folks who want to have a better wrap and tap service.
Okay, I would like to see, trains and bus service to return back to pre and post COVID-19 pandemic levels for the upcoming year. Like on CTA, Metro, and Pace, before and after of the new agency takes effect June 1st of this year. Okay. Um, and also, today is the deadline day for the public transportation agency for the deadline day of the safety plans on the public transportation, like the CTA. Okay.
We are, there will be, we go into the new agency goes into effect June 1st. There's a lot of new money coming, probably in the fall is when the new revenues will come. So you're going to get more frequent service and better service. And we work regularly under the new law with the Cook County Sheriff, who is really working, and the CTA is addressing it. But the new law has the sheriff really looking, and he's put in a great deal of time with his deputies into improving security on the CTA. So both of the things you want are going to happen. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it will happen over the next several months. And I think you'll be pleased with the better frequency of service and certainly the new safety requirements that are going into place. So I think you'll be pleased.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, and thank you for riding. And please, you know, if you think we need to be doing something, please contact us. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's the end.
And then on witnesses, thank you all very much for being here, and your input is critical to us. It really is. With that being said, on the speakers, we'll move on to item 5, which is Director Leanne Redden's Executive Director Leanne Redden's report.
Good morning, Chairman Dillard, members of the board, and our guests that have joined us both in person and virtually. Just have a few updates as we're beginning this meeting today. Want to make you all aware that we have opened our annual call for projects for the RTA's community planning grants, as well as partnering with CMAP on their technical assistance program. That program opens up March 30th. We've been in this community planning process and programs since 1998, the RTA has actually funded over 200 projects across the communities, across the full 6-county region, where we fund both technical assistance and actual planning work with communities trying to advance transit-oriented development in and around transit facilities that exist. And just to give a more recent example, we completed 26 projects just in 2025 alone. CMAP and RTA have partnered for many years now on these programs together. We'll host jointly 2 virtual open houses in April that will answer questions for communities, community groups about this year's program availability. Anyone who's interested can find out more information on either our website or on CMAP's website. We'll also put an update in our newsletter, which is going out later this week. And you can feel free to, amongst your community and the people you speak with, help spread the word about this funding opportunity. I also want to let you know that a longtime RTA staff member, Bill Larkman, has announced that he will be retiring April 1st. Bill is here. Bill is currently serves as the division manager for our budget and treasury group and is also a trustee on the pension committee. He has served our region for 23 years at the RTA, and among some of his more significant responsibilities, he has for many years been patiently explaining how funding flows and works in this region to all our new employees, as well as to many board members and elected officials and others across the region. But in all seriousness, we want to thank him for his generosity, the work he has done for us and for this region, his passion for public transportation, and those roles that he has supported the transit system in our region. I know I speak for all of you when thanking him for his contributions and wishing him the best in this next phase of his life. So with that, I think we should just give Bill a quick round of applause. I also want to note that the Government Finance Officers Association has again awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the RTA. This is the 31st consecutive year. It's a fairly rigorous process that the RTA has, and we've received this award. And I want to thank the entire finance team for their effort and their ongoing work. Finally, we have mentioned at previous meetings that we have established multiple working groups with the service boards, and these works have continued to meet and work on, as we anticipate, work on the transition to NETA and the work that needs to continue in these coming months to set up NETA for success. We have continued to meet, and we anticipate that we will share a proposed budget amendment with you at the April board meeting. And then have discussion on that, feedback from you with the contemplation of a May budget amendment approval from the board to allocate some of those new funds to advance some of that work and continue supporting public transportation. We'll also promote and hold a virtual meeting of the Transit is the Answer Coalition to gain feedback on that budget proposal, that amendment proposal, sometime in that time frame before anything would be considered for you. And then we would share that feedback from active community members and others before you would be asked to consider potentially voting on that item. All right, so moving on to a quick legislative update. There's a few federal and state updates before we begin the rest of the agenda. On Tuesday, the Federal Transit Administration issued a special directive to the Illinois Department of Transportation regarding required actions to strengthen safety oversight of CTA. We have reviewed the directive, and we're happy to share it with you if you wanted to look at it and discuss any more details after you've reviewed that. Moving over to Congress, last month, the APTA, the American Public Transportation Association Board of Directors, approved a package of final recommendations for the next surface transportation reauthorization bill. The recommendation urges Congress and the administration to provide $138 billion, including guaranteed funding for public transit over the next 5 years, noting this level of investment drives $140 billion in economic benefits for the national economy. Other recommendations are focused on accelerating project delivery through statutory and regulatory changes and identifying ways to strengthen local decision-making authorities. APTA's also joined the AFL-CIO-led coalition to encourage Congress to support these goals, emphasizing the importance of advancing appropriations to planning and delivering infrastructure projects. RTA continues to work both with the National Association and monitoring these reauthorization discussions as they progress. And we will also be participating in APTA's legislative conference in April and visiting Hill members as part of that effort. Locally, the deadline for state lawmakers to advance legislation during this legislative session passed on Friday, March 13th in the Illinois Senate, and it's on Friday, March 27 on the House side. Staff will continue to monitor legislative activity that may affect transition to NETA and even more generally transit in the region. We will keep you apprised as things develop. The next major legislative deadline is Friday, April 17, when bills must advance from third reading in their respective chambers. So moving on to today's agenda, there'll be 3 informational presentations as well as 4 items that require your vote. We'll begin with an update from our customer satisfaction survey panel work before providing an overview of the current access pilot program. That's the fare program that provides reduced fares on Metra to riders already enrolled in the SNAP or Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and as well as the opportunity, next steps to consider expanding that access program to CTA and PACE riders. Followed by, we'll give you an update on the monthly financials. After that, we'll ask for your vote on an amendment to the capital program, an update on the ADA action plan, as well as 2 other contracts. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will turn it back to you, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions, Tom? Could Mr. Director Quintero?
Thanks, Chairman. Thanks, Leanne. Just wanted to make a comment on the working groups and the budget. Just in light of NETA coming and being one integrated transit agency, I think it's important as you enter those discussions with the service boards to not sort of default to the old ways of just formalizing the funds down to the service boards, but really making sure that the unique responsibility the General Assembly gave us this fiscal year to retain all of that discretionary funding, that a really decent portion of that remains at the regional level. There's no need to allocate that immediately. Making sure that the service is truly integrated and coordinated is very important. And the second component, I think, is equally as important, more important, is the public safety component of that. The chairman mentioned Cook County Sheriff has a totally new role in helping set up new safety measures immediately. All of those responsibilities very quickly becomes NETA's with a new Office of Security and Transit Experience. That's going to take resources. We don't know exactly how much, but we do know that that's the #1 issue that we have to address. I think we're going to see that in some of the slides about with the customer's response to really regaining ridership. So while I know the service boards are eager, it's a new day. It's going to be a very different way that we allocate funding. And I think that we should start that with this current budget to make sure that we're holding that and distributing that in a way that works for one integrated transit system.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. I mean, they are the themes that we are carrying into those discussions across all those different working groups. And I will also note that continuing conversations both at the service board level and with us, with Cook County Sheriff's Department as well, to integrate that into the potential funding amendment that you will share an outline of what that might look like at the April meeting for consideration at a future meeting. And yeah, so those themes and tenets are absolutely being carried forward, that message. Oh, the final other note that the governor's office has actually now assigned staff to participate in the working groups with us. So again, with this sort of eye and this mindset of it is a new day, this is sort of carrying forward sort of these new, the structure, the foundation, the tenets of what the NEDA legislation is asking us to do.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions? The transition is going pretty smoothly, as complex as it is. I just want to echo what Leanne said about Bill Lackman. When I first got here, nobody knows our funding formula, and as complex as it is. And Bill, I remember the charts, looking at charts with you and some of the staff. Nothing is as more complex, other than maybe the school aid formula in Illinois, as our funding flow. And I sent Bill a note yesterday, just saying I learned so much from him. He's so solid, and his reports, to the board, while they're sometimes dry, and I mean that as a compliment, are just so critical to us. And like so many of our employees, Bill's loyalty to the RTA and to transit in general has been superb. And he has big shoes to fill, including it's never glitzy, but the retirement systems and the pension plans. Bill is a rock of Gibraltar in making sure that our plans are solid, they're solvent. And in a state like Illinois, Bill, we probably have the most sound retirement system I've seen of public agencies. And I know you're only a phone call away, but you will be missed. And we certainly thank you so much for your service. I'm going to do a debrief sort of interview, or an exit interview with him next week. But thank you so much, Bill. Really appreciate it. All right, we will move on to 6A, which is, to me, very important. We heard from witnesses today, but it's the customer satisfaction panel survey. And Peter Kirsten is going to tell us just how satisfied or how unsatisfied people are with our service. And, we do listen, just like we listen to the witnesses here today. I remember Peter at a meeting this year in Springfield of a committee, one of the senators go, Mr. Chairman, do you know who your customers are? We do know who our customers are. We listen to them. And during COVID, I'm always looking for a bright side to COVID. We even dug down further on who our customers are, where they live, who they are. So, Peter, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Chairman Dillard, members of the board. I'm Peter Kirsten, Division Manager with Regional Planning, and I'll be providing the board with a summary of findings from the Q4 2025 customer panel survey. So as a reminder, our smaller panel survey is completed every quarter to measure rider sentiment on specific issues. In line with our normal response rate, we received 1,423 completed surveys from regional transit riders representing all 6 counties. The survey was live from December 12th to January 4th. The survey was available in English and for the first time in Spanish as well. Results are weighted by modal ridership from the much larger 2025 customer satisfaction survey, which is the onboard survey that we do every 2 to 3 years. Each quarter survey, we ask about customer satisfaction, public safety, and service quality, and then we cover a couple special topics. So this survey topics included cleanliness, fares, and the NEDA Act. So as I mentioned, the survey was also translated into Spanish. This was in large part from the board's feedback last time I was here talking about this. This is the first time we've offered the panel survey in a different language. Note again, our much larger CSS effort every 2 to 3 years is offered in multiple languages and formats. Knowing that we were unlikely to have Spanish preferred speakers in the existing panel, we also recruited new responses. So we had 342 individuals from the larger effort that had shared their email address and indicated they were interested in being contacted further for surveying. We had 16 complete survey responses, representing a 4.6 response rate, which is actually a good response rate for our panel survey. We are formalizing our internal process for translation and will continue to recruit Spanish speakers in future waves. We'll also consider additional languages for future surveys. So I'll provide a high-level update on topics we track each quarter. In each case, respondents are scoring satisfaction on a 10-point scale. The percentages represent the number of respondents that score 6 or higher. This is a best practice method that we've employed. We've done a scan of market research. This is the way that we've landed on the best way to kind of show the results. So when asked satisfaction with the value of service considering the fare paid, 79% scored 6 or higher in Q4. The results on screen are showing the wave for the entire year, Q4 and then to the right to Q1. How likely to recommend transit services to others, 79% scored 6 or higher, and overall satisfaction, 73% scored 6 or higher. Looking longitudinally over the year, responses in each of these 3 questions only varied by about 4 percentage points across the 4 waves of the survey. So this is a positive finding. 70 to 80% of riders are expressing high satisfaction with the system overall. Looking at service quality, same format here. With each question, respondents are scoring their satisfaction from 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, and we're summarizing findings as the percent of responses 6 or higher. So we ask about service in a variety of ways. Staff consistently scores well, 75% of responses 6 or higher. Service available when and where you need to go, 74%. Getting to your destination on time, 75%. Delay in real-time information is at 65%, but we did see significant improvement over the year on that one. And then the lowest scores in service quality are on cleanliness and personal security, 56 and 57% only scoring 6 or higher on a 10-point scale. Then looking deeper into public safety, again, same format here. Respondents scoring on a 10 scale. We're summarizing 6 or higher. Feeling safe when traveling from home to my first station or kind of the first mile of a trip is at 68%. Feeling safe waiting at a station or stop is at 61%. Feeling safe when on the bus or train is at 57%. Feeling safe when traveling to my final destination from where I get off the bus or train, so your last mile of your journey, is just 69%. Like the others, looking longitudinally here, again, we see pretty consistent scoring over the year. There isn't a really significant change that pops out. Only a 7% point range across scores on the survey waves. But of the 3 broad categories, overall satisfaction, service quality, and public safety clearly scores the lowest and represents an area that we need to focus on. So then looking to a couple of the special topic questions, first, a ranked response question on riding more often. So the question here, what would encourage you to use transit more often? And then respondents are ranking those. The top 2 responses are service oriented in reliability and availability of service. Personal security ranks 3rd. Fast service and cleanliness round out the top 5. Notably, the cost of driving and remote work policies ranked the lowest, but again, this is an active rider survey. So while these factors have been big impacts on who rides from the general population, amongst transit riders that are active, the importance pales in comparison to service qualities. So when we shared the Q3 findings, board members had asked us to look deeper on a couple topics. First up is cleanliness, and we'll separate here between stops and stations, and then on the next slide, we'll talk about onboard vehicles. Same format as previous, respondents are ranking satisfaction on a 10-point scale, and we're summarizing at 6 or higher. So temperature, landscaping, general crowding, noise, graffiti removal, all scoring at 60%. Respondents gave a 6 or higher score. Where we see the lower scores are overall cleanliness, seating, litter removal, waste removal such as waste from pigeons, and air quality and odors ranking the lowest. Same format here again, but looking at onboard transit vehicles. Temperature, crowding, graffiti, noise, all at 60% or higher. Overall cleanliness, seating, litter removal, bodily waste removal, and air quality and odors, all at or below 60%. So both at stations and stops and on board, when riders express low satisfaction on cleanliness, they are most dissatisfied with waste removal, litter, air quality, and odors. And again, this is an area of needed focus. Last quarter, the board also suggested we ask about fares. So this is a totally new question to the survey. A simple yes or no format. Considering your primary mode, the price of fares is reasonable. 88% said yes. Compared to all sorts of other questions that we ask, this is an area of strong consensus. Riders say that the price they pay is reasonable. And then the final two questions are about the NETA Act. So as a reminder, the Q3 survey preceded SB 2111, passed in veto session at the end of October. All year we were asking respondents about their awareness of the fiscal cliff. In this wave, the Q4, 66% of respondents were aware that the bill had passed by the legislature, compared to 34% were unaware. So this is in line with familiarity of the fiscal cliff, similar questions we had asked throughout the year and saw people were paying attention, and that was growing over time. And then finally, for respondents that answered yes to the previous question, so they have awareness of the NETA Act that was passed, we asked them about the opportunity our region has to invest in and improve our transit network and to rank objectives, dividing up 100 points. So the question here, you have 100 points to allocate to these 5 areas. How do you, where do you put your priorities? How many points to each one? Top rank is public safety. If you have 100 points to spend, riders say 29% of those should go to public safety. Improving service comes in second at 26%. Capital investment, infrastructure gets 16%. Expanding service or offering new routes gets 15%. And then seamless and more affordable fares are lowest priority at just 14%. So this feedback is critical to shaping our future 2026 budget amendment to ensure we're investing appropriately in these categories and addressing the things that riders want to see improvement on, as well as setting up NETA for success into the future. So that concludes my presentation. Happy to pause for any questions.
Thank you, Peter. Any questions or comments? Dr. Seyer.
First off, thank you, Peter. I appreciate the report. It's obvious that riders do believe that the fare structure is satisfactory, and they have public safety as a primary concern with regards to the transit system. I'm interested, though, in the last summary that you had with regards to future of regional service, and one of the comments, then 26% said improving service. That's kind of a vast, open for interpretation kind of commentary. Are they talking specifically about increasing rides, which seems to be expanding service in my mind? So how do you define the improving service, or how do you believe that the riders that respond to the survey were interpreting that question of improving service?
Yeah, so when we've talked about this in past waves, we've kind of defined improving more as both reliability and then more frequent service. So the same route exists, but we may perhaps extend the span of hours, or we're just running more buses on the same route throughout the day, making it more convenient and easier to use the existing system. Versus expanding service would be offering new routes, new coverage into new areas that we don't currently serve. The way that this question is phrased is very high level. It could be interpreted in different ways. I think this is a topic that we need to continue to talk about. And as you know, as NETA comes online and we have new funding and new ways to invest in service, I think it'll be really critical to both assess the needs of communities and then communicate how we're addressing those in terms of, you know, better service that already exists, new services or perhaps, innovative ways to deliver service. It's going to be a continuing thing to ask customers about and then to communicate with them about it.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that I think this was a kind of high level type of questionnaire or survey, if you will, and I appreciate that. I do think, though, that we need to probably dig into that just a little bit more, and I think you're stating that through NEDA, we look forward to doing just that, is kind of digging into that. Are they really talking about improving service station facilities as a part of that? Are they looking at a greater schedule? Are they looking at improvement in terms of the time and their reliability, et cetera? Those things I think need to be taken a look at a little bit more specifically. But I do have a great deal of gratitude for your leadership and that of others to put this very, very important survey together as we try to meet the needs of our constituents to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Director Mondero.
Hi, Peter. Thank you for sharing this information. I'm not sure if you've explained before in a prior board meeting when you've given the customer survey results, but can you share if these questions that are asked are like commonly benchmarked with other transit systems, and if so, do you track like what's the national average of customer satisfaction? What's the national average for satisfaction in terms of public safety and cleanliness?
So we do quite a bit of analysis of how others are asking questions. The way that we show the 1 to 10 rank and then percent 6 or higher is all based on best practices from the industry. A couple things that are different about this. One, we are kind of one of the only regions that takes a more regional approach to surveying. So our CSS, we do that together. We agree on a common instrument and then are able to make comparisons across the 3 service boards. That's unique. We talked to the Bay Area recently, which has even more operators, but this is an area they would like to improve on, is doing more consistent surveying for better comparison within their region. Unfortunately, there isn't like a good, reliable kind of NTD like data source for comparison amongst operators. So everyone's kind of asking these questions differently on a different time frame. We do kind of summarize things and show overall satisfaction levels. That's what, we publish that on the dashboard. And you can make some eyeball comparisons to other systems. And I think, being in that 70 to 80% range is pretty consistent with what other operators are doing. But there isn't kind of a really reliable source of data such as NTD in the survey world at this point.
Dr. Carey.
Peter, excuse me. Peter, this is regional, so it's not broken down by Pace, Metra, et cetera. I look and we talk a lot about safety, and it is probably the #1 concern at this point. But I look at this one on cleanliness, and 50%. I mean, it's pretty bad. I mean, that it's only 52%, 54%. Think that, where they're riding is clean enough. So where I'm going with this is when we get around to, going back to some of the things Director Katarik said, when we get around to looking at the budget this year, it would be very interesting. I think we need, as Tom said, to be more directive about where the money's going. Not just, okay, Pace gets this much, Metro gets that much, but what are they doing with it? And I would like to see, and maybe we do this, but I'd like to see the results of the survey by service board on things that we can impact by saying, okay, well, this is your budget, but where in this budget are you addressing cleanliness? And we think that's not enough, or we think it's too much. So I don't remember in the past if we typically kind of get survey data at the same time as part of the budget, but it would be interesting to see.
Yeah, we can certainly work to try and make those connections of how are we directly addressing what we've heard from customers.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I was struck by, if I were to fill out this survey, how probably close to the priorities of our riders my own personal experience is, and I ride more than one of the systems. Cleanliness, I've discussed with the CTA, prior to Nora, but with Dorval extensively. Homelessness, really, in last meeting, I said a new survey came out saying Chicago had more homeless than they previously thought. At 58,000 individuals in Chicago are homeless. But homelessness has caused, new issues with respect to cleanliness. But cleanliness is one of my bugaboos. I take it, and sometimes I'm aghast at what I see. I also think we need to see, when there's a cleanliness problem, if somebody calls it in, how rapidly does the CTA or Metra, but it's the CTA is more of an extensive problem. How fast do they clean it up? But cleanliness is a big deal. I know from the previous president of the CTA, he talked about staffing issues with respect to cleanliness. And, I frankly told him, look, if you can't get enough employees to do it, you may have to outsource some of the cleanliness, but you got to clean it up. Especially having spent a lot of time in the last couple of weeks on tourism issues. So not only we Chicagoans, we're a tough breed. We're used to seeing a lot. But it's a reflection on our city. And the Obama Library is opening up, and we are rebounding well on tourism. But I take other systems, and I might exclude the Bay Area, which has, every time I think we have issues, I just look at the Bay Area and go, we don't quite have some of their issues. But cleanliness is a reflection on the city of Chicago, and it's a reflection on the state of Illinois, and it's got to improve. And obviously, safety, personal safety, is without a doubt, and it's been in the news, and it's pressure's coming from Washington and other places, but it's more of an anecdotal. So we're working on it. And Sheriff Dart, who I serve with him in the legislature, great public servant who's really, with his staff, really focused. Even though the act's not going into effect, they're working on the public safety aspects that are out there. But I was just stunned at how my own personal reflection is, essentially what our riders are saying. So, but homelessness is a new problem that it's bigger. It's always been there, but it's a bigger issue. And the mayor, to his credit, the mayor is and the new legislation addresses it as well. But homelessness is clearly an issue related to cleanliness, but also personal safety. We must find some of these folks the mental health resources and shelter resources that they need. So, Director Ross.
So Peter, are these survey results shared with the transit boards, and do we ask them for feedback?
Yes, we have a working group that meets throughout the year to do both the much larger effort on a 2 to 3 year basis. And then with every wave of our panel, we share our findings. CTA does a biannual survey similar to this as well. So we coordinate with them. They were helpful in getting it translated. They had some tips on how to streamline that process. But we share this information. It gets shared up through planning leads, and I assume further up through each organization. And yeah, we coordinate on additional topics. Sometimes they give us a question to ask if there's something that they're curious about or that they've heard about from their riders as well.
It'd be interesting to get their response on some of these issues. Cleanliness of buses is a good example. Are the buses clean when they leave the terminal in the morning? Is there any refresh that goes on during the day? As an example, when you fly, as soon as you get off, they're already cleaning the plane before they allow the next boarding. I realize maybe we can't do that with buses, at least not the way they're operating currently, but is that something for future consideration as an example?
Yeah, we can definitely follow up to get more information specific to cleanliness for sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Peter, thank you very much. Muchas gracias on the Spanish language. And we probably should have Russian and Polish in there as well, or others. We'll expand. So 6B is a presentation on expanding the access pilot and updates to the RTA's online fare portal. Michael, thank you as you come up, and Evan. Michael, thank you so much for this yesterday was Employee Appreciation Day for transit workers, and I watched you this morning with our guest out in front, and you are a great transit ambassador. Let's put it that way. You have a very nice touch with the customers that we try to serve as well as we can with limited resources. So thank you, Michael.
My pleasure.
Okay, good morning, Chairman Dillard and members of the board. I'm Evan Laugen, Senior Strategic Analyst on our regional planning team. I'm here to provide an overview of the Access Pilot program that has run for the past 2 years and to briefly discuss the potential to expand upon this program under NETA. Access is a pilot program that provides a reduced fare on all Metro lines and zones for individuals living in households enrolled in the Illinois Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, and who also live within the RTA's 6-county region. All members of SNAP enrolled households between the ages of 12 and 64 are eligible to apply to the RTA for an Access Pilot permit. Note that children 11 or younger and seniors 65 and above are already eligible for other reduced fare programs and therefore not eligible for Access. Making transit seamless and affordable is a goal from Transit is the Answer, and the Access Pilot is just one element of this in our region. The Access Pilot began in February of 2024 as the Fair Transit South Cook pilot on the Rock Island and Metro Electric lines was ending. The South Cook pilot, which was launched in 2021, was a universal reduced fare, so everyone riding those lines paid the reduced fare, but only on those 2 lines. The South Cook pilot additionally included service enhancements. The Access Pilot is an income-based reduced fare, but is offered to residents of the entire region and on every Metro line. Access is a partnership between the RTA, Metro, and Cook County. Cook County pays a majority of the program's operating costs, although residents of any of the RTA's 6 counties are eligible, and the RTA handles the rider certification process. Over 280,000 Metro rides were taken by Access permit holders between the regional pilot launch in February of 2024 and the end of December 2025. On average in 2025, Access permit holders took approximately 13,500 trips each month, with a peak of 17,000 in October 2025. 81% of Access rides in 2025 began in Cook County, although Access riders traveled throughout all 6 RTA counties. To put these monthly ridership numbers into perspective, Access ridership in December 2025 accounted for 0.5% of Metro's total monthly ridership. Of the 280,000 rides made using Access from February 2024 to December 2025, 52% were taken on the Metro Electric and Rock Island lines, the 2 lines that were part of the initial Fair Transit South Cook pilot. In addition to having the highest number of total Access rides in 2025, the Metro Electric line had the highest proportion of rides on the line taken using Access. That's followed by the Rock Island, Southwest Service, and Heritage Corridor. As can be seen from the chart, Access permit holders travel on all 11 Metro lines and in all parts of the 6-county region. Riders who qualify for Access can apply through RTA's newly expanded fare portal, which Michael will discuss in detail in just a moment. RTA has received over 14,000 Access permit applications and issued over 7,500 Access permits since January 2024, when applications were open for the start of the region-wide pilot. 72% of approved permits went to Cook County residents. On average, the RTA issued 256 Access permits each month during 2025. The agreement between RTA, Metra, and Cook County for the Access pilot has been extended through the end of 2026, but we do anticipate changes coming to the pilot before it ends. The NETA Act centralizes fare policy at the regional agency and calls for a number of reforms, including establishing a regional income-based reduced fare program. The Fares Working Group is estimating expansion costs, which is primarily lost fare revenue from CTA and PACE, along with minimal development costs to introduce reduced fare passes. The working group will advance a proposal to expand access as part of a potential budget amendment, as we have mentioned. Expansion to CTA and PACE riders is a much larger population of SNAP households, and we anticipate increased demand for permits. The RTA Fare Portal is ramping up capacity to be able to certify riders and issue those permits. And on that note, I'll turn it over to Michael to walk through the Fare Portal.
Thank you, Evan. Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Michael Vandekreek, and I'm the Director of the Mobility Services Department. The purpose of this presentation is to brief you on RTA's Fare Program's online application portal. We wanted to highlight recent enhancements made to the site that make it easier for applicants to navigate the application process. We also want to demonstrate how flexible the site is to quickly implement new fare programs that are required in the NETA Act. And lastly, I will explain how this portal can be used as a tool for customers to request an increase in Taxi Access Program, TAP, or Rideshare Access Program, RAP, monthly trips, which you'll hear more about during the ADA Action Plan 2.0 agenda item later in the meeting. As you know, the RTA manages the application process for the reduced fare, ride free, and access pilot programs. The portal I will demo for you today added an innovative and cost-effective approach for the application process. Prior to 2022, the only option for customers to apply for any of the fare programs was to complete a paper application. This could be done through the mail or at one of our in-person regional customer service centers. In 2022, we developed and launched the first version of the online portal for a few reasons. Most importantly, we needed a more modern and convenient way for customers to apply for the RTA fare programs. And additionally, having an online portal is more cost-effective, and it protects sensitive customer information more than a paper application being sent through the mail. The portal can be accessed at fares.rtachicago.org or getaccess.org, and both URLs point to the same site. From 2022 to 2024, we use Google Analytics to monitor how customers were using the site. We wanted to understand if applicants were able to complete the entire application process online, or if there are common places where they dropped off the site. From Google Analytics data and customer feedback, we identified that there needed to be improvement and began work in 2025 to address pain points that existed for our applicants. The changes we made focused on helping applicants understand the fare programs, ease the online application process, and increase the accessibility of the site. We launched version 2.0 in December of 2025. This slide lists the enhancements that were made. I will discuss each of these enhancements throughout the presentation, so I'll move on and jump right in. I will walk you through the actual application process by using screenshots of the portal as the customer would experience it as going through the process. This is a landing page that an application will see when entering the site. On the left-hand side is where applicants can apply for or manage their access pilot permit. And on the right side is where applicants can do the same, but for the reduced fare and ride-free permits. Once they select the permit type that they are interested in, they would hit next to start the process. For the purpose of this demo, I selected the left-hand side for the access pilot program. I want to show that we are already prepared to use this portal to expand the access program to CTA and PACE when the time comes to do so. As I stated a moment ago, if the ADA Action Plan 2.0 is approved later in the meeting, we will add a third option to this landing page that allows customers to select an option to request an increase in their RAP and TAP monthly trip allotment. This online process will simplify the request process, and the data collected can be easily packaged and submitted to PACE for quick implementation. Additionally, with the infrastructure of this site already in place, when we need to add new fare programs to the site, it's not a huge lift at all, and it can be done rather quickly. Now I'd like to begin talking about the enhancements made to the portal while walking you through the rest of the portal screens. You'll notice on the slide at the top right-hand corner of the landing page, we added a new feature to select the language and the text size needed to view the site. The site defaults to English and regular size print, but once an applicant selects their primary language or text size, the site immediately reconfigures to accommodate the request. This was added to address accessibility issues for people with low vision disabilities and to address other spoken language needs. This also prepares us for language accessibility requirements that are in the NEDA Act. This is the next screen an applicant sees after selecting the Access Pilot program on the left-hand side of the screen. The two gray bars on the page were the original options of the first version of the portal, which was to apply for a new permit or replace an existing permit. We added 3 more options to Portal 2.0 shown in the teal boxes below the original options. Now applicants can switch between FAIR programs if their financial, age, or disability status changes. They can also update their contact information or submit a new photo that is used for the permit. And in the past, these 2 options would require a customer to complete a whole new application. And for the third option that's new, applicants can now return to the site at any time to check the status of a recent application or to upload additional or missing documents. For this demo, I selected Apply for a new Access Pilot program so you can see how that works. The applicant would then be taken to this page. The purpose of this page is to explain the program, who is eligible, and what documents need to be uploaded to be found eligible. As you can see, this page is very text heavy. So for the next enhancement, we developed 28 instructional videos that are strategically placed at key locations throughout the portal where Google Analytics indicated that a high percentage of people dropped off the site. All videos are currently offered in English and Spanish with subtitles. On this page, the video covers the text shown on the page, and this not only prevents some applicants from just hitting next without understanding the programs, but it also helps applicants with limited literacy skills. Once the applicant learns about the program and decides to move forward in the process, this is the next page where they will enter demographic information. For the next enhancement, we added logic to the site where once a customer enters their demographic information here, the site cross-checks our customer database to determine if the applicant is already an RTA customer. If they are a current permit holder, it will provide options for them to renew or replace their current permit. If they are not in the database, it will then recommend which program they may be eligible for based on the information they entered in the demographic screen. For example, currently Access Pilot program applicants must live in the 6-county region to be eligible. If the customer enters an address outside of the region, they will be informed that they are not eligible to apply for the Access Pilot program at this time and why. Then the portal will suggest other programs that they might be eligible for instead. This built-in logic helps applicants choose the correct FAIR program or process that is right for them and reduces the number of applications that are found ineligible. Next slide. Oh, that's for me. In this case, when an applicant hits next on the previous page, they were informed that they could apply for the new access permit. This slide shows a simple application that they fill out. However, another enhancement to the portal is that the application now auto-populates the demographic information that was entered on the previous screen. But the most important enhancement is the ability for applicants to opt into paperless electronic communication, which is circled at the top of the right side of the screen. Previously, the portal did not have outgoing email functionality, so all eligibility letters had to be mailed to applicants. Since launching this enhancement, approximately 30% of applicants have opted into electronic communication, which saves RTA printing and mailing costs and provides the applicant with a quicker notification of their eligibility. After the customer completes the application, they are brought to this page to upload the documents required to be approved for the FAIR program that they chose. From Google Analytics and customer reports, this is the stage in the process where we find the highest percent of people that are dropping off the site. To address this, we added 2 separate videos on this page in both English and Spanish. One is an instructional video on how to upload documents using a cell phone or a tablet. The other is a video on uploading documents on a desktop or a laptop. In addition, to be eligible for the Access Pilot program, the applicant must be enrolled in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, which is a program that the RTA uses for means testing purposes. For proof of SNAP eligibility, we require that the applicant upload their SNAP eligibility letter. Often, customers reported that they did not know what the SNAP eligibility letter was, which is why there is a high level of, not eligible for that program. So in version 2.0, we added an image of the letter as shown in the graphic on the right, and instructions on how to get a copy of that letter from their online SNAP account through the Illinois Department of Human Services. We also have there, it's hard to see, small print there, but we also have a link to the website so they can find that site easily to get their letter. After the applicant uploads all the required documents and hits next, they are brought to this page to review their order, the information that they entered, and the documents that they uploaded. This is another new enhancement that allows customers to make sure they enter the correct information before they submit their application. And finally, they are taken to an order confirmation screen so they can be assured that their application was submitted. This video on this page explains when they should expect to receive a decision on their application, when their permit will arrive if eligible, and how to use that permit on CTA, Metro, and PACE. If the customer opted into electronic communication, this is an email that they would get to confirm that their application was received with an order number. They can then visit the portal at any time to check the status of their application using that order number. I will wrap up my presentation with some data to show the impact of the RTA FAIR program's online portal. Since its origin in 2022, there has been a steady increase in the number of applications submitted in the portal. In the first year of 2022, we processed 31,000 applications online. Last year, that increased to 67,000 applications. So in total, since 2022, we have processed 212,000 applications online through the portal. All of those applications would have been paper applications without the portal. So we have already saved the region over 215,000 by reducing printing and mailing expenses. In 2025 alone, there were 93,000 total applications. Of that, 67,000 of those were online, which is 72% of all applications. As you can see, there was a big spike in online applications at the end of the fourth quarter of 2023 into the beginning of the first quarter of 2024. This is when the Access Pilot Program began and our advertising focused on using the portal to apply. You'll also notice that there are peaks in application volumes throughout the timeline. We have created a very strong relationship with the staff at the Illinois Department of Human Services, and when they are able to, they do text blasts to all SNAP recipients in our region to promote the Access program on our behalf. When those text blasts take place, we have a significant spike in applications and visits to our website. By far, these text blasts promote the program much better and much more effectively than any of our advertising we do on our website, social media, and other sources. Lastly, our FAIR program's vendor did not charge us for the development of this portal. They just bill us for each application they process at the same rate as they did for a paper application. So this concludes my presentation, but I'm happy to brag more about the portal if you have any questions. Thank you.
It's great stuff and complicated.
Yeah.
Michael. Director Walker.
This looks fantastic. Brag on. Just want to clarify, people, for the 8 to 10% of folks who don't have computers, they can still use paper or come in.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. We have a paper application still for those folks, and we have 4 sites that we have in the city of Chicago, and then we have 62 other sites that are scattered throughout the region where they can get in-person assistance.
Director Lewis.
I echo what Director Walker said. Continue to brag on. This is great work and really a great outcome. The question I had was one of curiosity. When the initial pilot was started for South Cook County, the genesis was trying to link jobs which were up in, say, the Schaumburg area, and people who needed jobs, many of whom were south and in the South Cook County, to try and bridge that gap. Now we've expanded it, and so I just wonder if there's any disparity in terms of the type of applicants now versus the types of applicants then in terms of the program and its outcome. Just curious if there's any sense of that.
Yeah, the original program, that was open to anyone that was on the Metro Electric line and Rock Island, thank you. And so now this program is system-wide, the Access Pilot Program. So anyone from across the region can apply for this if they're SNAP eligible. So it would really be more income-based, and then serving the people that would need to access anywhere in the region, if they need more assistance financially.
I guess what I'm saying is that it was job-based initially. And I just wonder if we've seen any, this is just a question of curiosity, any difference in the applicants, because now it's just income-based, whereas before it was really people trying to get access to jobs. So I wonder if they had any impact.
If I'm correct, PK, correct me if I'm wrong, but there wasn't an application before for the pilot for on the Rock Island. It was everyone that was using those lines were able to access that. So we don't have that data in terms of a change in application type.
Yes, Director.
Yes. Hi, thank you. I guess part of what I'm wondering, so this is great, right? I'm very excited about it and I'm
Good.
very excited to learn about the program. My mind very fast goes to folks who are wary of being part of any government program, hence they don't even apply for it out of any kind of fear or what have you. And so I'm trying to figure out, as we're thinking about income-based, is there like a requirement that we have to use SNAP? Or is there like or if there was any way that we can also think about, well, maybe the child has like reduced lunch or what have you.
Sure.
And I'm just trying to think of like, again, like I'm thinking of a lot of day laborers, right? I'm thinking a lot about people who work in temp agencies
Sure.
and folks who might want to use the Metra, right? But they can't, they wouldn't sign up for this program because it's government.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. We actually made the decision to use SNAP as a qualifier. There was no requirement to do that. That's what we decided on because it was the easiest one to implement for a pilot. If we decide, if the board recommends that we expand that to more programs or other means testing mechanisms, we can definitely look at that for sure.
Thank you. That's a good question, Director Alvarez, in light of today's climate. And I was just looking, two things down in our agenda. We use the acronym ICE for a program, bummer of a name, but we had that name before they did. But no, that's an excellent question and something we need to be aware of. Director Gorman.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. This is great. I kind of track it as, could I use it? Could my mother use this? And it seems pretty, simple and so it's much appreciated. So when they have to go to the landing page to update and apply, how often are they reapplying? Is it like time? Is it monthly or is it when the funds run out? How often do they have to do that?
Yeah, so our reduced fare and ride-free program, the ride-free program is a 5-year eligibility, but by law, they don't have to reapply. But what we ask of them is to just update their contact information every 5 years so that we can keep track of the folks that are in that program. For the reduced fare program, it's a 4-year eligibility period. So after the 4 years, they get a letter from us saying it's time to reapply. And at that time, they could go back into the portal or do a paper application if that's needed to reapply for that. The access right now, we haven't had a expiration date on that because it was a pilot. So we're still serving people from the very beginning that apply and until we knew what the next steps were going to be in expansion of that program. And then lastly, I'll just talk about ADA paratransit really quick. If someone applies for ADA paratransit services, they get an ID card as well. And that card is also doubles as the ride-free permit now on CTA Pace where they can tap it and it doesn't charge them. That program is a 4-year program as well. So every 4 years, they have to recertify for their ADA paratransit eligibility.
So they can just show their card or?
On the system, actually, it's a Ventra, it's a card that is chip enabled for
On their
Ventra.
mobile.
Yeah,
Right.
so if they tap their card on CTA or Pace, then they would get on for free. On Metra, they would just show the conductor and they wouldn't charge them.
Great, thanks. And then one more thing, I said that Cook County funds, are they invoiced or how does that work?
Do you want to
Do you know?
if you can?
Yeah, we invoice Cook County twice a year for the pilot program at this point.
So basically, there's an estimate based on the ridership and the deficit of lost revenue. Basically, Cook County is reimbursing Metra for the lost revenue for the program.
To balance it out. So they
Yes.
subsidize.
They're subsidizing
Okay.
that delta in the revenue collection.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Director Jenkins, good morning.
Good morning. This is
excellent. I like the easeability of it and it's exciting. Have you tested, as a person that does pretty much everything on my phone? I know that sometimes when you go to these landing pages for different things on your
Yeah.
phone, it comes up differently and then sometimes it's wonky. Have we done any tests that's my first question.
Yeah, it automatically reconfigures for a cell phone and it actually looks really good. And if you have a chance to go to fairs.rtachicago.org or getaccess.org, just check it out. It really reconfigures nicely and all the same functionality is there.
Same for uploading documents on your
Yeah,
cell phone.
yeah, and actually what we require for someone uses the cell phone, which is actually the easier way to do it, is they can take a picture from their phone of the document they need and then upload it from their images and we accept that.
That's awesome. And just because I'm new to how this part works, with the ADA paratransit, if they select that option, what type of documents are we
So for
requesting for them to upload?
I'm sorry, interrupted. For that, actually for ADA paratransit, they can't actually reapply or apply for paratransit using that. But what they can do is if they lose their permit or they need a replacement permit, they can order a new one. So for the application process for ADA paratransit, they actually have to come in to be assessed, or we have a phone interview depending on where they are in the process, because we have to assure that the person is actually eligible for ADA paratransit. But if they lose their card, they can come back and use the portal to replace it.
Okay, and I know it's an action item on the list that we're going to be talking a little bit more about ADA and whether we're expanding it or anything like that. But just for my edification going into that conversation later, what documents do we request for that?
So how that will work on our portal is that, like that landing page, we'll add a third, let's see if I get back to it. We'll add a third. I'm almost there. There we go. Where it has those, there's the two panels, the teal one and the gray one. We'll add a third panel to it. We've already got the mock-up for it.
Okay.
We'll have another place where they can put, they can hit that panel and it'll go for a request process. For that, what'll happen is we're working directly with PACE, and PACE is going to make sure we always have at all times who's eligible for Rapper Tap currently, and if there's any, if they're suspended for any reason from the program. So once someone, pushes, the option to request it, they would fill out a really simple demographic form, just like I showed a little bit ago.
Okay.
And it would look them up in our database to see if they are currently an ADA paratransit customer. So that's how, one, we would know if they're, first of all, certified. And then we'll also cross-check PACE's documents that they give us to see if they're in Rapid Tap, as well as if there is any suspension going on currently. So that'd be the qualifier. If they are in Rapid Tap and they're not suspended currently and they are a current active ADA paratransit customer, then we'll go forward and allow them to have the extra 10 trips.
Okay. So if they're a new customer, then do they need to go through PACE's system and application process first?
That's correct. So they apply through PACE to get into the Rapid Tap program. And then after that, we would the only part that we'll manage is if they need additional rides for Rapid Tap. And then we will, as that happens, we'll package up that information and give it over to PACE so that they can update their systems to give those specific customers the rides they need.
So is PACE, I'm sorry, it's getting a
No,
little
it's
bit
good.
unexpected. I just want to get this information out there. So is PACE the ones that are sort of housing or managing those documents or that process? And do we have any insight on what type of things they're asking for? Is it notes from doctors to prove eligibility or?
No. See, the eligibility process, so anyone who's eligible for ADA paratransit service is eligible then to use Rapid Tap as an alternative service to the traditional ADA paratransit. So we at RTA find people eligible for ADA paratransit, and so we do that whole process, and we keep all the documentation for that. However, once someone is found eligible, then we transmit all the necessary information over to PACE, and then PACE enters all of that customer information into their databases that they use for dispatching and all of that. And they have then housed in their system who is eligible, their eligibility dates, all their demographic information, all that we collect. So once they have all that information, then for Rapid Tap, a customer then will apply for Rapid Tap through PACE, and they would just make sure that they're in their database, first of all, to make sure they're an eligible customer, and then approve them for Rapid Tap after that. Then once someone gets Rapid Tap, then they can come back to us. If you guys approve that action item today, they can come back to us then to request more rides.
I'm just now thinking, but this may be an issue for Nita or some further conversation. Is there a way to streamline all of that if you're a new person to the disability community?
For sure. And thank you for the questions. They're really good. Thank you.
Like I said, it's complicated, but it's great. Dr. Cyber.
Thanks, Chairman. With regards to the access rides by month I'm looking at, do we have any idea why September, October had kind of a bit of a spike there?
I think it's a spike that we also see in most other services. September and October tend to be high ridership months during the school year, good weather.
Okay, so maybe it's start of school year you think is an important element to that, which makes sense to me, I guess.
And it aligns with other ridership patterns we see with general Metro service. It's not just access riders who are riding most of them.
Okay, thank you. And then as we look at access rides by Metro line, Metro Electric had by far and away double, I guess, most of the others. Is that due to the pilot program itself? Do you think the offers that were provided that kind of increase that?
Our suspicion is that it's a combination of exactly what you're saying, that South Cook pilot was already existing, and the fact that the Metro Electric line serves a large number of the population that qualifies for access, especially in comparison to other Metro lines.
Okay, thank you. Switching over to the portal briefing, I add my kudos to that of other directors here. Very grateful for that. I also have to say, Dr. Jenkins, thank you, excuse me, Director Jenkins. I'm originally from Southern Illinois, and we use different words down there, but I love the word wonky. I'd never heard that before. So I love that term. We would probably say skitty boo, but you said wonky, and I love that. So it's interesting that the different regional terminology that we use. So thank you so much for that. I do want to go over to the question about the address, which gives a qualification for an individual.
Yeah.
In McHenry County, and I would say probably in Lake County, maybe not so much, but we have several Latinos in that particular area that do have access to the FAIR program, but they don't necessarily live in Illinois. They ride the Metro line because they have close proximity. They're actually living in the state of Wisconsin, and then are transported down to the Metro line to go to specific jobs, usually frankly in landscaping or service industry and that type of thing. Are they excluded or are they eligible for this program?
When we originally set up the pilot program with Cook County, we had to come up with some parameters for that. So currently, it is only someone who has an address that is within the 6-county region, and that address also has to match their Illinois. Is Illinois, you would get your SNAP eligibility through the state of Illinois for our program. So between like the SNAP eligibility and their home address, they have to match for someone to be eligible for this. If we wanted to look at that differently in the future, that's something we could definitely talk when Nita comes on board. But for now, that's just how it was originally set up with Cook County.
And I appreciate that very much. I think you have to start someplace, and so you started in that place, and I'm grateful for that. To me, though, especially for our area, it might be good in the future if we look at usage, if you will, I guess, access, if you will, rather than specific address parameters. It seems to me like that would be something we would want to be promoting in a way. So it's just commentary for maybe future consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Groven.
So one more echo, the portal stuff is great, and I applied the same litmus test as Director Gorman. If I can do it, then most everyone should be able to do it. So it was really good. So I think we'll see a lot more applications. I was going to go back to Evan's analysis where of the 14,000 applications we saw, 7,500 were successful. What's driving that? Why do we think such a low kind of?
Yeah, a lot of the rejections were closer to the beginning of the portal, and we were finding by talking to people and also through Google Analytics, people were having problems with identifying what documents they had to upload. And so they weren't uploading the correct documents, or they weren't one, or if they didn't have an address within the 6-county region, or if they didn't have the SNAP letter uploaded into the to the database, then those would be things that would not qualify them, of course, for the program. So that's why we did some of those instructional videos, is really to help people understand what's needed, and then also how to upload those documents. Those are other videos too. So we're seeing a decrease. I can't get you a percentage right now, but we're seeing a decrease in rejections. And we're also seeing that a lot of the people who were initially rejected are now being approved on their second attempt now that they have more information.
All right, good, thank you.
Director Mondero.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Michael, I have a question, a comment, and a compliment. So I'll start with the compliment as everyone does. Great job on the Access pilot. And I echo Director Alvarez's comment that I'd love to see other, in terms of an expansion of the pilot, like other things other than SNAP as criteria. One question I have, you mentioned that Ventra is used to for capturing free rides on CTA and PACE. The conductor will see it on Metra, but then how do they capture the data of the number of free rides that they're giving on Metra?
Yeah, that would just have to be at this point through, well, two ways. It would be through conductor counts would be one way in which they could capture that. Another way is that they can, on some of the vending machines, especially for like the Access pilot permit, because right now that's a flash card because it's a pilot. If someone purchases a Access reduced fare ticket, then they can track it through their purchasing mechanisms.
But is there even a method for the conductor to count and tally?
Right now, I mean, Metro does that stuff manually across most of their fare programs, actually. I do know that part of the future states for Metro is actually demoing, piloting handheld readers. So, and if this program also became permanent, because it's a pilot now and expanded, one of the other things is to move it into a smart card as well. So that data could be captured in different ways. So there's several future steps and iterations to actually allow better tracking and collecting of data through the systems that we have.
Thank you. So I guess that would be part of like NETA's initiative, and to go harken back to Director Tarek's point, which is going to my comment. I noticed that your very organized online portal, I love it. And I was like reading through the veterans, and then I'm going, oh, we treat veterans differently on CTA, Metro, and PACE. And so like PACE, it's like, oh, you have to be active duty and in uniform. And then CTA, it's like, it's anyone, right? And so like I'd love to see NETA to our future board, whoever that might be, to like look at unifying that fair decision as well. So,
and I see Moloch just came on camera. He's under the weather. That's why he's virtual. And I know it is a component that is a very topic that is happening now in one of the working groups right now. And I suspect that's why he jumped on camera, because he wants to address that.
Yes, thanks, Leanne. Hi, Director. Sorry, I'm not there. I was just going to add that we are looking at harmonizing all the policies and rules. Part of the issue, for example, military or veterans are different is because a different city ordinance guided CTA's requirement versus the regional requirement. But now that we are going into this new phase and governance structure, it is one of the first things that we can do is streamline those policies.
It's a good result of NETA. Director Carey.
I have two very quick questions, and the technology is very cool. One, a couple people have talked about usability. I mean, if my mom can do it, we think anybody could do it, but guaranteed there'll be people who get confused even with the videos. Is there prominently displayed? I mean, is there a help desk? Is there a phone number that people can call?
Yes, at the bottom of every page on the portal, there is the phone number for our customer service line.
Okay, great. And then on the flip side, for people that might be more tech savvy and have their phone with them all the time, is there an intention to, instead of having a physical card, to be able to send them a card and you can put it in your wallet on your phone? Know what I mean?
Yeah, I know that that's something that CTA has been looking at, is how do we have a digital wallet for reduced fare cards?
Okay.
They're there yet, unless I haven't heard any updates, but that is something that that is coming down the line that CTA has been talking about.
Okay.
Right now, we don't have the ability.
Okay, thank you.
Ah.
Great information. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, gentlemen, very, very much.
Thank you.
Good work. All right, let's move on to our monthly financials. Sarah, good morning.
There we go. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Sarah Rubino, Principal Analyst, and this morning I'll be covering the financial results of the service boards for the first month of the new budget year. First, let's look at the operating deficit performance. The favorable trend continued into the first month of 2026 for Metra, PACE, ADA Paratransit, and the region as a whole, due to favorable operating expense performance. The CTA reported a slightly unfavorable operating deficit result as expenses exceeded budget, even though ridership and system-generated revenue were both favorable. Specifically, the purchased security expense category was the main driver of the unfavorable result at CTA for January. PACE Suburban Services operating deficit has started the year significantly favorable at almost 27%, driven by favorable results across most expense categories. This is, of course, just a single month's worth of data, so we won't read too much into them until trends solidify with subsequent results. The regional operating deficit finished January at 4.9%, or $13.7 million favorable to budget. 2025 sales tax receipts are projected to finish the year 13.7% higher than 2024 at $1.94 billion. December warrants, which just arrived at the RTA, were strong, indicating about 18% growth in the final month of the year. As we look toward forecasting the 2027 funding marks, this higher base will increase the total available funding by about $60 million per year versus the current adopted funding marks. We'll continue to monitor the sales tax with lower growth expected to return with the January 2026 results. And that's it for my brief update. Back to you, Mr. Chairman, for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Director Kotarik.
Thanks, Chairman. Sarah, do we know what the positive budget variance is for each of the service boards at the end of the calendar year for 2025?
Yeah, we reported those last month with the quarterly certifications. Most of that PBV was captured in our 2025 forecast when we were budgeting for 2026.
Gotcha.
So they finished about where they thought they would finish.
And our current policy is that that positive budget variance is at the discretion of the service boards.
Yes, that's their PBV. Yes.
Gotcha. And that's just policy. That's not a,
Except on the ADA paratransit side, where if there is a PVB, it's actually retained by the RTA but set aside in a separate
In a
pot,
reserve, yes.
in a reserve fund, yeah.
good. It's just following up on my comments about the budget amendment is that, you know, there's also additional funding because of the sales tax growth that is really generous and robust. There's plenty of funding that's still currently at the discretion of the service boards to use that
True.
by policy, not by anything that is statutory, is at their discretion currently. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Illinoisans are spending. Don't know where it's coming from, but they're spending. All right. Any other questions for Sarah on the monthly financials? Thank you very much. Next is Tara O'Malley and John Sung are going to present an amendment to the 2026 through 2030 capital program extensions to the innovation, coordination, and enhancement funded projects. Director Alvarez, I won't use that acronym. It bothers me, actually. It's all yours.
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. I'm Tara O'Malley. I'm here with my colleague, John Sung. We're both from the Capital Programming Department and here to request your vote for the two following ordinances. An amendment to the 2026 to 2030 capital program and changes to the innovation, coordination, and enhancement program. Our first ordinance request is an amendment to the 2026 to 2030 capital program. The proposed project and funding changes are for all three service boards, CTA, Metra, and PACE. Collectively, the program is increasing by $202 million, which is actually bringing our 5-year total to $8.5 billion. In this amendment, CTA and PACE are adding new discretionary funds. In addition, all three service boards are reprogramming older funds, including state bonds for PACE, state PAYGO funds for Metra and PACE, and RTA Innovation Coordination and Enhancement funds for CTA and Metra. Let's take a look at some of the key changes. The region continues to successfully compete for federal awards and received a significant boost for bus replacements from the federal low or no emission grant program. CTA received an award for $121.1 million to purchase 150 hybrid buses to replace some of the oldest buses in their fleet. The award was the largest amount granted by the program to date and will make a significant impact on improving the state of good repair for CTA's fleet. PACE also received an award, the same award, for $39.8 million, which will allow PACE to replace 36 hybrid buses, which will be located at the West Garage and will serve Western, Cook, and DuPage counties. Overall, the Low-No program issued awards totaling $2 billion with a total applications of over $7 billion. We are happy to see that the FTA recognized our state of good repair need and awarded a significant chunk of the program to our region. I also wanted to mention a smaller award that CTA received from RTA's Access to Transit program for improvements to the bus turnaround at Halsted and 79th Street. The program will be funded with $800,000. Now I'll pass it over to John to discuss the Innovation Coordination and Enhancement Program.
Thank you, Tara. Good morning, Chairman and the Board. I'm John Sung, Senior Analyst, Capital Programs. It's very nice to see you all again today. Let's take a look at some of the reprogrammed Innovation Coordination and Enhancement funds included in this amendment. CTA is reprogramming about $250,000 to the Englewood-Racine Green Line study, which helps to move along the reopening of the Green Line station, Racine station, included in the NEDA legislation. The project is still in its planning stages, but we expect to be able to present more information to the board on this project later this year. Metra is reprogramming $1.6 million to their labor apprenticeship and development project that helps to meet state and federal apprenticeship requirements. This project was initially funded with 2025 Innovation Coordination and Enhancement dollars last year, but those funds were rescinded to fill the ADA shortfall. This reprogramming will allow the project to continue moving forward. Lastly, let's look at Innovation Coordination and Enhancement extensions. CTA is requesting to extend their Safety Management System project. PACE is requesting to extend their Transit Signal Priority project. And Metra is requesting time extensions for the following projects: hybrid and alternative fuel vehicles, luminous platform signs, downtown terminal information displays, GPS train trackers, station displays, transportation division software. Details including project status and new expiration dates for each project are included in the board memo. Wrapping up, staff requests adoption for the following ordinances: approval of the amendment to the 2026-2030 capital program, and extensions for the Innovation Coordination and Enhancement Program. We are happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we are seeking your approval for these ordinances. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yep, Director Colson.
It says the CTA project changes. 30 million in CMAQ funding for the red line extension is being shifted from 2026 to 2028 to better match funding needs for the project. Can you be a little more specific? I don't know what that means.
So for when the funding, if the funds will actually be needed to be spent, they're projecting a 2028 need. I'm also understand that CTA worked with CMAP to coordinate the determine the CMAQ distribution of funds.
So there's a budget for the project that is specific to years going forward?
Yeah, it was originally programmed in 2026 and it was pushed out to 2028.
Okay, where is that budget for the Red Line project? I sure haven't seen it.
It is in the Schedule 2B in there. It's not specifically stated in the memo, but it is identified in Schedule 2B. Perhaps not highlighted. I'm off of the top of my head, but it is identified in there in Schedule 2B that the funding moved from 2026 to 2028.
All right, thank you.
Director Gorman.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. You know, obviously we're taking the federal, you know, low, no bus awards and, you know, appropriating it where we may, but it would make sense too to expand one of our professional service contractors to, you know, have that analysis to make sure that that this is going in the right spots, you know, to make sure that, you know, we are getting, you know, whether it's electric, hybrid, low or no hybrid buses, you know, so hopefully, you know, as we move along this process that we can, you know, start getting the appropriate, you know, data to make sure that we are on the right path.
Malik, did you want to jump in?
Thanks, Leanne. Yes, Director, duly noted. I think the federal government, this is one of the few awards they have made this year, and both CTA and PACE were successful in getting hybrid buses, but we can certainly make sure for any other funding that we are looking at this in a more comprehensive way.
That would be great. And just to make sense that we're doing, you know, our jobs, you know, as agents to oversee, you know, this. So thank you.
Thank you. Director Lewis, and then Dr. Sager.
This is just a point. I know in Michael's presentation, we had the future of regional service and kind of like, I call it the North Star for what our customers are saying they want to see from us, public safety, improving services, et cetera, et cetera. Were these amendments to the ICE program done with respect to those, or what was the timing on the feedback from the customer survey you know, later than when they had to make decisions on where they were going to reprogram those funds? Just trying to see if there's any coordination or correlation between the two.
So the funds weren't reprogrammed. It was a time extension. So what we're asking for the ICE funded projects that were in this slide here, we're asking for time extensions. The ICE, the Innovation Coordination and Enhancement Program, allows for service boards to the clock starts for spending from the first day that they are allowed to have 2 years to spend their funds. And if the 2 years is on its way up, then we allow for a 1-year extension. So that's what we're asking for here.
And they're existing projects that they're already working on. It's really just extending the timeline of those programs because they haven't fully finished the work, and allowing them to expend the funds already dedicated to them for these existing projects for a slightly longer time.
Understand. I just want to make sure that as we look at the North Star from our customers, that anything that we do going forward really kind of goes through that lens. So maybe that was more what I was getting at.
That would be for future discussion under future budget, you know, annual budget work, and then the ongoing conversation around capital funding, operational funding going forward. But that would be certainly something for future conversations.
Dr. Sager.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to kind of support the comments by Director Gorman and a member of the public who addressed this. I think it was Michael, perhaps, with regards to doing our due diligence as we look at hybrid buses, and we're purchasing 186 under this federal program opportunity that we have, 186 new hybrid buses. And I just want to make sure that, yes, indeed, we're doing our own due diligence as a board, but also we want to be able to evidence to the public that we have, in fact, accepted and completed that responsibility. And so I do appreciate the comment that was made, and I support Director Gorman's commentary in terms of the backup in reporting that we might be able to provide. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments here? How about a motion and a second then to approve John's recommendation here? Director Sager moves that we adopt, seconded by Director Gorman. And with that, Madam Secretary, how to roll call?
Sure. Director Alvarez, Director Carey,
Aye.
Director Colson, Director Gorman.
Aye.
Director Groven,
Aye.
Director Jenkins, Director Katarik,
Aye.
Director Lewis.
Yes.
Director Mondero,
Yes.
Director Rotundo.
Yes.
Director Ross,
Yes.
Director Ryan,
Yes.
Director Sager,
Yes.
Director Walker,
Yes.
and Chairman Dillard.
Yes, I'm going to look at Schedule 2B too also, but yes, I'm a yes.
15 ayes.
Thank you. That's adopted. Thank you very much. Moving along, 7B is the ADA Paratransit Action Plan 2. Peter Kirsten will present. We're pretty familiar with this by now in a good way.
Good morning again. Chairman Dillard, members of the board, Peter Kirsten, Division Manager, Regional Planning, and here to present the action item ADA Paratransit Action Plan 2. So just as general background, ADA Paratransit is a mandated service that complements fixed route transit. It's a specialized transportation service required by the Americans with Disability Act. It's designed for individuals unable to navigate public transit independently due to disability. In our region, we fund ADA Paratransit first, meaning the budget for the program comes out of the 2008 sales tax. PACE operates the service for the full 6-county region, the second largest operator in the United States. Additionally, PACE has 2 subsidy programs, Taxi Access and Rideshare Access, also known and referred to throughout this presentation as TAP and RAP. RTA certifies eligibility for people that participate in the program. Throughout 2024 and 2025, rapid cost increases of the subsidy programs combined with looming uncertainty created by the fiscal cliff led to the RTA board adopting an action plan alongside budget measures taken to address the 2024 budget shortfall and a projected 2025 shortfall. The action plan included 30 ride monthly cap for TAP and RAP. Previously, PACE had established a daily cap of 8 rides, which could mean as many as 240 per month. The action plan instructed PACE to restore the fare for TAP and RAP to equal that of traditional ADA paratransit, which currently is at $3.25. Previously, PACE had charged $2 fare for the subsidy programs. The action plan instituted ride-free fixed route for all ADA certified riders. The action plan was adopted in June. The programmatic changes were implemented in October of last year. Since then, the NETA Act has brought funding certainty to the region, dramatically changing kind of the dire budget scenario that the program faced at the time of the first action plan. And lastly, RTA has also initiated an audit of the PACE ADA paratransit program. So looking back to the start of 2024, you can quickly see the gold line representing the combination of TAP and RAP. Starts to steadily grow in March when RAP was introduced and continues all the way through 2024. By January of 2025, RAP and TAP had surpassed 200,000 rides that month and were carrying more rides than traditional ADA. As you can see on the chart, all of this growth in RAP and TAP came without a substantial decline in traditional ADA. So the black line is not dropping in a similar way that the gold line is going up. Popularity of the RAP program, both in terms of entirely new registrants that had not used ADA paratransit previously, as well as increased demand, so people using it more often than they had used ADA, combined with steady traditional ADA ridership, is a big part of what led to this large cost growth. On the far right of this graphic, you can see the dotted line where the 30 ride cap was introduced in October. RAP and TAP rides dropped by about 100,000 in each month after the cap was put in place. So the gold line drops below the black, and you can see that has continued in the months since. So today we're here to ask the board to vote on a second action plan. The actions outlined here make some minor changes to the subsidy program and continue to chart a sustainable course for the ADA paratransit program as a whole. Nothing in Action Plan 2 changes traditional ADA paratransit. Traditional ADA, as required, will continue to be funded first, ensuring reliable, fully accessible transit for the more than 60,000 eligible riders in our region. The first two actions are to make permanent fare restoration on tap and wrap, matching that of traditional ADA currently at $3.25, and to make permanent the ride free for ADA certified riders. Again, these are already implemented and would be codified in the 2027 budget process. Additionally, the Action Plan 2 will maintain the 30 ride cap that is already in place, while instructing RTA to develop and manage an application process by which a rider can request a cap increase to 40 per month. Riders applying will be approved on a case-by-case basis. Additionally, Action Plan 2 calls for continued improvement and coordination among county RAP programs. So RAP, this concept of RAP is used in the county dial-a-ride programs as well as continuing to monitor ridership and usage of traditional ADA paratransit and RAP and TAP for the NEDA board to address and assess any future changes beyond this. Action Plan 2 continues the success of the first action plan while addressing key issues we heard in public comments from riders, advocates, and key partners and stakeholders. Many of those echoed today in comments, specifically on the 30 ride cap for RAP and TAP. The decision to develop a process to increase to 40 on a case-by-case basis is built on ridership and cost analysis that we've completed with available data as well as peer comparison. Action Plan 2 codifies the fare change, ride-free, fixed route actions from the first plan, and lastly, new funding available via the NEDA Act will ensure the program sustainability in years to come. The NEDA Act includes creation of an Office of Disability Policy and Planning that will work in collaboration with an ADA Advisory Council and is responsible for a number of deliverables. This new office will work with the NEDA board on any future changes as well. So previously, board members had asked for more explanation as to why 40 is the right number. So with available data, we can see that 80% of riders are covered by the 30 ride cap. They continued to use RAP and TAP in the same ways that they had previous to the first action plan. There was really no change. 20% of all RAP and TAP riders have hit the ride cap in each month. That's about 2,400 people in our region. Of those 2,400 that have hit the cap, only about 800 went back and took a ride on traditional ADA. On average, of the 2,400 riders that hit the 30 cap, they averaged 4.2 additional rides on traditional ADA. So that means they've hit the cap on RAP, they've gone back and requested, on average, 4.2 additional rides on traditional ADA. Creating a process by which these riders can request 10 more rides would meet the needs of 97% of all RAP and TAP users. Again, this is based strictly on observed ridership data that we have since the cap went in place in October. Lastly, with the right parameters in place to control for overall program growth, the subsidy programs are very cost effective. The average cost per trip of TAP and RAP is about $18, with the rider paying $3.25. And a max cost of only $30, while the average cost per trip on traditional ADA is about $80, again with the rider paying $3.25. The goal of RAP was always to leverage both the cost effectiveness while offering more flexibility in how eligible riders can use ADA paratransit for all of their mobility needs. So staff is asking for your vote to adopt Action Plan 2. I will pause though for any questions.
Questions, comments?
Sure.
Director Colson.
Are there standards for granting or denying these requests for 40?
So the process for the request would be, Michael explained kind of the functionality, the portal side of it. We would determine that the person is eligible for ADA, is currently enrolled in RAP, and has not had their account suspended. PACE does have a process by which they ensure people are using it appropriately. If you met that criteria, you would be approved for 10 more rides.
Dr. Carey.
Thank you, Peter. I think there's a lot of us that are very happy, I think probably all of us that were at this point today. What I really want to do is thank the people that have come for almost a year to ask us for help. We have heard a lot of stories. We heard stories today. And I know I personally have a much better idea, I think, or just a hint of an idea of what these folks go through, you know, in the disability community, trying to get around our region. So this is a small thing we're doing today to go from 30 and allow 40 for the people that need it. And I'm sure we look forward to NETA doing the total evaluation of the process, figuring out, you know, why perhaps the traditional ADA paratransit doesn't work as well for a lot of the people we've heard from. But I really do want to thank all those in the region, in the community, in the disability community who came out and supported with their voice to Springfield and supported this board in trying to make a decision here. And apologize for it being somewhat tortuously long to get to, but we are here today. So thank you to everybody who volunteered their time and their stories. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat, and to the witnesses that are here and the people with disabilities needs. There's been no better champion than Director Carey for your causes, and I thank you, Pat. You put an inordinate amount of time into this, as has Nora, as has Dennis and Tom Kotarek, and you know, this is a very innovative program that's worked exceedingly well. And, you know, to the witnesses that are here, we're just trying to find the right balance, knowing what our resources are for a new program. And today, these changes will take care of at least 97% of everybody who uses this program to date. We'll try to figure out, or NETA will try to figure out what happens to the other 3% that are out there. Hopefully this does help them too. But you know, an amazingly innovative and successful program. There used to be a governor of the state who said no good deed goes unpunished. But you know, it's a new program. I thank these witnesses for staying with us while we try to find the right balancing act here. But it's you know, it's a program that works very well. I think, you know, the organized labor community for pointing out some things, and NETA will have, you know, will be the final arbiter, I guess, of how this program actually goes forward. But today takes care of most of it, and I thank the board members who really have put in an extraordinary amount of thought into this, as well as the staff have spent an extraordinary amount of time. Talked to former Commissioner Karen Tamling, who's been, you know, she's just an amazing public servant, and now with Access Living. So she's been incredibly helpful. So I thank, like Director Carey, everybody for their patience here. So with that, Director Carey moves that we adopt this, seconded by Director Groven. And if there's no more questions or comments, Madam Secretary, how about a roll call?
Okay, Director Alvarez,
Aye.
Director Carey,
Aye.
Director Colson, Director Gorman,
Aye.
Director Groven,
Aye.
Director Jenkins,
Aye.
Director Kotarek,
Aye.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
Director Mondero,
Yes.
Director Rotondo,
Yes. Yes.
Director Ryan,
Yes.
Director Sager,
Yes.
Director Walker,
Yes.
and Chairman Dillard.
Yes.
That's 15 ayes.
Thank you, and it passes. So our friends in PACE, if you're listening, thank you too for all of the time you obviously spent on this this very important ADA paratransit plan. Items 7C through 7E are approval of contract and expenditure items as they appear on the board agenda. These items for consideration include 7C. It's an ordinance authorizing a contract for printing and mailing of maps. I don't know if Malik is still on the line, but he's available.
Yes.
To answer any questions on that. Item 7D is an ordinance authorizing a contract for professional services for the DuPage County Demand Response Transportation Study. And item 7E is the travel expense reimbursement approval. Any questions? Can we take these all at once? I don't know where Al. So let's, any questions on any of these? If not, let's have a motion to approve items 7C through 7E as they appear on today's, 7C, D, and E, all in one roll call. Director Rotondo, DuPage County's in here, moves that we do approve items 7C, 7D, 7E, seconded by Director Kotarik. And with that, Madam Secretary, how about a roll call?
Okay, Director Alvarez,
Aye.
Director Carey,
Aye.
Director Colson, Director Gorman,
Aye.
Director Groven,
Aye.
Director Jenkins,
Aye.
Director Kotarik,
Aye.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
Director Mondero,
Yes.
Director Rotondo,
Yes.
Director Ross,
Yes.
Director Ryan,
Yes.
Director Sager,
Yes.
Director Walker,
Yes.
and Chairman Dillard.
Yes.
That's 15 ayes.
Thank you. And those items are approved. Item 8 is new business. Any new business to come before us today? Seeing none, I just want to remind you that our next meeting will be April 16th after the day after the taxes are due for United States citizens. And so our next meeting will be at 9 o'clock on April 16th. Any further business to come before the board? Seeing none, Director Groven moves that we adjourn, seconded by Director Rotondo, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.